our Diamond Director from New Zealand, Fiona Jamieson Follen.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that lovely introduction. As you heard, I've absolutely fallen in love with your beautiful country. And thank you so much for the wonderful welcome that I received. I feel very humbled by it. So I feel very grateful for you having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, especially having escaped the Kiwi winter. It's very cold over there right now. So I'm here to share a little bit of my journey so far with my husband Chris and our USANA business, and also to share a few of the things that we've learned along the way through our journey. So for us, it began 4 years ago when we began our USANA business. Now my background, I'm an osteopath, and I came out from the UK to New Zealand, and I set up 3 health centres there. I worked in those businesses for about 8-10 years, seeing patients all day for many years. And for my husband and I, we had something that ended up being a fortunate occurrence, a fortunate incident. Happened about 5 years ago. And we were crossing a main street in Auckland on a pedestrian crossing on a green man light, and suddenly a car hit us out of nowhere. It didn't stop. It should have done. Now, Chris smashed the windscreen with his head. He had quite a big head injury. He lost his short-term memory for about 2 months. I had a complicated fracture to my shoulder, and I needed to have my knee reconstructed. I needed to learn to walk again. So it was a huge change for us. It took about 6 months to recover. We needed to sell that last business. We couldn't carry on with it. And in that time, it had us really start to think about what we were doing. So in terms of what's out there for us, there are going to be challenges. In every part of our lives, there are going to be challenges. And I love this quote. It's not what happens to you that determines how far you go in life. It's how you handle what happens to you, Zig Ziglar. And this will be true for you as you grow in your journey with USANA. In every part of our lives, it's what we do with what happens that counts. So in that time, in those 6 months, Chris and I really started to think. We thought, my husband, he's a lawyer by training. I was busy working all day, every day in a very physical job. What if we'd had an accident that meant that we wouldn't be able to work again? This was a tremendous time for reflection for us. We started to think, maybe it's about working smarter, not harder. We were working just about as hard as we could before the accident, about 85 hours a week each. So we started to be a little bit more open to looking at opportunities as they came along, and I'm so pleased that my sister and her husband Chris, Helen and Chris Bolton Jameson, they introduced us to the gift of USANA. And we weren't very open initially. Just before I move on, as Jim Rohn says here, as we started to open our minds, we started to realize and learn a formal education can make you a living. So that's what we were doing. Chris was a lawyer, I was an osteopath, we had our professions. So we were making a living, but a self-education can make you a fortune. So this is where I started to realize maybe it was time for me to learn something new here, a way to work smarter. So it began very slowly for us. My husband Chris, he wasn't really that interested. He got into property investing because that was a real business. For me, I realized that there was definite promise here. I was very, very impressed with the products and the potential for this new business that was very new to me. Now, I remember at the beginning sharing USANA with people, giving presentations that we heard Bill talking about earlier, the health and freedom presentations. I gave 18 of those before anybody decided to join. 18! Do you think I nearly quit? Absolutely I nearly quit. I got so close to it. Do you think I'm very pleased that I carried on going? Absolutely. This has been the best thing that we've ever done, but it took persistence, and it took determination, and it took the knowledge that I needed to upskill and be a good leader to help lead people. I needed to lead by example first. And that's some of the growth that I needed to actually experience to help other people be successful. And as the checks started to come in through the business, that's when my husband started to think this looked a little bit interesting. There was a big problem though that he noticed. It was just my name on the check. So that's when my part-time business became our business. And for me, I feel very, very blessed to be working with such a great man in the business. One of the things that I would give you as a tip is come along to events like this one, where you're going to be hearing from top leaders, people who have a lot of knowledge that can teach you about how to be successful, and come along to them regularly. This will be one of the keys to your success. It will help you create the momentum that you need to not only succeed personally, but the only way you'll succeed is by helping other people be successful too. And sometimes there'll be things that you have said many times with people in your team, and when it's said by somebody else, they will hear it. Okay, and that's what can help create this momentum and the power of these events. And this we found, as we were beginning and attending events, gave our team the permission to succeed. And that's the key with this business, being more interested in helping other people achieve their goals, because that's what will help you ultimately be successful too. Some of the positive benefits, just some, because there are so many in this business for us, and this is only the beginning for us in our journey. I learned about discipline. Okay, we can all have goals, we can all have wishes and desires, but unless they have timelines and plans in place, step-by-step process to get there, and backed with action, then it just remains a dream. Everybody can have goals and dreams. Who's here is going to be taking action with their goals? A lot of you. Fantastic. And I love this quote. To know and not do is to not yet know. It's like many people, they know how to read. There's shocking statistics that say how many people actually take out a book and read it once they finish studying. We all need to be learning. This is something that I remember when I first began in USANA, I felt like I pretty well knew it all. When I think back on it, I must have been horrible to be trying to teach. And one of the things that's been a big blessing for me is to learn to open my mind and be teachable, be more humble. Because I have a lot to learn from every one of you. We need to set goals. One thing that one of my biggest mentors, Dr. Dennis Waitley, teaches us is the importance, the central importance of setting these goals and working through a plan to get there. Because he says, if you don't stand for something, then you will fall for anything. This is so true. There's plenty of influences out there in our world, not all of them positive. We need to make sure that we're clear about where we're going first. We set the pace. We decide where we're going. Just like when we hop in a plane and we decide we're going to go on holiday, maybe to Fiji, one of the beautiful Malaysian resorts, wherever we're going to, Thailand, the person who's flying that plane, we trust they've made a really clear plan and they're following that plan. And it's the same with us in our business. We need to be very clear about where we're going. Seeking knowledge, as I mentioned, because it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I love that quote. John Wooden, very successful coach. You know, he would be working with people who are very, very good at what they do, and it's the people that remain more open and are prepared to practice and practice and practice and practice. We hear this in medicine, and as an osteopath, I had to practice. And it's the same for us. Constantly be willing to learn from people who've had a lot of success. It may not be the way that I would have thought of before, but I've always had something to learn. One little tip I'd like to give you to take away, it's worth jotting this down. Taking a piece of paper, writing these letters above, then draw a line and then write them below. This is a concept that I learned about choosing where we are in our lives. Are we going to be above the line or are we going to be below the line? And what do these things